Live from London, this is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Collum on Teachers Talk Radio. Hello and welcome to the Sunday Brunch with me, your host, Graham Collum on Teachers Talk Radio. Today we are talking about movies, teachers in movies. You've all seen a ton of films. I want to know what your thoughts are on all the different teachers you've seen. Is Dumbledore all right? Is Snape all right? Is Good Will Hunting all right? What's going on in the world in movies? Live from London, this is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Collum on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio. Hello. Can you all hear me loud and clear today? I'm getting weird volume levels. Am I sounding okay? I'm excited about the show today and I want to jump into it. Oh, good. Tom Hopkins-Burke says he can hear me well. Nathan can hear me well. It's all good. I'm glad. It must just be my headphones being weird or something. Anyway, good to be here on this wonderful Sunday. I want to say sunny Sunday, but it isn't. It's a miserable old Sunday. But you know what's good for a miserable day? I kind of secretly like a miserable day of weather because it's an excuse to watch movies. And what better day to talk teachers in movies, educational figures in movies, in TV series, on the box. The teachers we see in pop culture, how do they reflect on us and our profession? How do we see them as teachers? Should they still be in with the job? There's a few ethical debates to have. Should Jack Black be allowed to kidnap his class? Because he's an awesome teacher and, he wants them to win the competition. He knows they're good enough. Should Miss Honey be able to adopt a child in her class? Child of needs, child has needs. You tell me, all right? It's all on the table today. We are getting into teachers via Hollywood, all right? I haven't quite decided what the buzz term is for this episode, but something like teachers via Hollywood. That's where we're going today. And I want to know what you think. And Lordy Lord, you have told me a lot already. I actually need to open with a bit of a disclaimer about there are a number of films I haven't seen, right? And it seems to be all the ones that are like really inspiring, brilliant movies where people are like, this is the best. This is the real teacher movie. The reason I became a teacher. I haven't seen him. So listen, I'm going to go full disclosure early on, maybe early enough that not many people will be in the room, right? So I'll avoid mass shame. No, anybody who listens to this show knows I'm not afraid of mass shame. But let's have a little look. The ones I haven't seen, all right, the films I haven't seen, I'm just going to come out with it now. I haven't seen Dead Poets Society, all right? I haven't seen Dead Poets Society. I know everyone's saying he's the best. Robin Williams is amazing in it. Or other people are saying he's the worst. Terrible teacher. Classic self-indulgent teacher. I don't know. I haven't seen it. So, you can call in and educate me on Dead Poets Society if you wish to. I haven't seen Coach Carter. Oh, man, that one really seems like cultural capital. Like I should have watched that one. When I was growing up, it was like on my radar. I wanted to watch it, but never got around to it. Dangerous Minds, haven't seen. Breakfast Club, I haven't seen. Please stay tuned. Don't switch off just because I haven't seen Breakfast Club. You can tell me about it. This is Teachers Talk Radio. If you want to educate me on some of these movies, right, get onto the Podbean app, find Teachers Talk Radio, call in, comment in. I have lots to be educated on. So these are the worst ones. Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I haven't seen them. Hit me now with your most offended comments, if you like, because I'm ready for them. Okay, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for not watching Breakfast Club and not watching Ferris Bueller. Even on Teachers Talk Radio, there's been some good little memes going around of the Breakfast Club hosts, and I kind of ducked out of them because I didn't quite get the reference. I'm actually, in a way, I know that Mal, a fellow host, Krishnasamy, is not listening today. She's off on holiday. She won't be available, I imagine. And I'm kind of glad because I know that she would tear me a new one for not having seen Ferris Bueller or Breakfast Club, Dead Poets Society, Dangerous Minds. and all of those. I also haven't seen Freedom Writers, although that's not one I'm ashamed to have not seen. It's just lots of people have said it's really great. But before yesterday, I hadn't even heard of Freedom Writers. So, good job, Hilary Swank. It sounds like you put a good movie there. Let's see, Sobia, being very honest there. Sobia, thank you for your honesty. I haven't seen them either, she says, and that makes me feel a great sense of relief, because then anyone who's feeling, aggressive at me, you can now neutralize your aggression by sharing it amongst many of us. Tim has commented, he tried Ferris Bueller last year, but he's left it too late. Only lasted 15 minutes. That's the issue, isn't it? Is if you don't watch them when they're released in the context of their time, there is the chance that they just won't affect in the same way. We've seen too many imitations and reruns of kind of similar style movies that now the original might not hold up for whatever reason. That's a good point. So Tim, me and Sobia, we are all in a Ferris Bueller boat where we have not gotten the full effect of Ferris Bueller. I'm aware of its cultural relevance, but these are films that lots of people have been saying, these are the teachers to talk about. These are the ones. I'm sorry, Teachers Talk Radio, listeners, club, people out there. Those are all the ones I haven't seen, though. Beyond that, I think I've seen them. So Dead Poets, Coach Carter, Dangerous Minds, Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, Freedom Writers. I'm sorry. You need to call in and educate me on them. If you want to talk about those, you got to call in and let me know, because I don't know them. Right, a couple of people in the studio now. You are listening to Teachers Talk Radio live on Sunday morning, actually, into the afternoon. This is the Sunday Brunch, and I'm Graham Collum. If you want to follow me on Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that, just look for @GrahamCollumVO, and that's me. And for Teachers Talk Radio, it's @TT Radio 2021. Depending on where you're looking, but it's very easy to find Teachers Talk Radio. It's all over the place. So welcome. It's the holidays, it's summertime. I hope you're all enjoying your summer. I hope you've gotten a few good films under your belts already. They don't need to be teacher related. Last night I watched Knives Out. Brilliant movie. Never seen it before. Really, really good fun. I highly, highly recommend Knives Out to anybody listening. I'm not funded by any movie companies. I just really loved it, and my wife did too. So good fun. A lot of amazing actors and a lot going on kind of under the surface of the plot as well, which is cool. So Knives Out, highly recommended. But today's show, on the table, we are talking teachers via Hollywood. We are talking, how teachers are perceived on screen, whether teachers are good role models on screen, whether they're bad role models. Would they stay in the job? Is it representing us well or badly in society? Do you think it affects the way society views us? There's loads to talk through. I have a feeling it's going to be one of these shows that will go across a couple of weeks. I think we'll start a discussion today, and I have a feeling in a future week we will continue on the Hollywood teacher chat. I got some teacher awards as well for later on. I got teacher awards because I was getting through. There's so many iconic teachers in movies and teacher movies and TV series that I had to have a way to give different ones different shout outs. So there's some awards for ones too. It's all going on, guys. It's all going on. If you are new to Teachers Talk Radio, it's an interactive platform, live and interactive. You might listen to it live. You might listen to it after the event. Obviously, if you're listening to it on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or on the Teachers Talk Radio website or anything, if you're not listening to us live, then I can't talk to you live, obviously. But if you are listening live, then get on Podbean, get chatting. I want to hear your thoughts on the many things to talk today. But we are on summer mode. I'm usually on summer mode anyway. My Sunday brunch slot is like the wind down. So we're going to be talking movies, teachers in movies, and what you think about those. I do like to talk a little bit of current affairs at the start of the show, usually up to the half-hour mark. But I have to say, there's not a great deal of current affairs going on at the moment, I'm glad to say. Obviously, there was Boris doing his usual foot-in-mouth job, our UK Prime Minister, saying that Thatcher did us an environmental favour by closing the coal mines. That was a bit of a controversy in the news because she didn't close the coal mines for the sake of helping the environment. She did it because it was good for her financial situation as Prime Minister at the time. And she, wasn't great for a lot of individuals' financial situation up north in the coal mining towns, really botched them in the long term. But he tried to go back and say, hey, it's good because it helped the environment, ignoring the fact that that was not a deliberate thing. It's a bit like, I was thinking about it yesterday, it's a little bit like saying plane crashes are good because they reduce carbon emissions. That's my take. Boris, it's nonsense. It's a what's the word? not deliberate outcome. It's an accidental result. So I don't think you should be taking credit for it, pal, or your political party. But anyway, I'm not too fussed about that. It's just Boris doing his usual, trying to get headlines, successfully getting headlines. So the less I talk about it, the better, really. There's been a little bit of edgy Twitter, meanness going on Twitter. So try and be all right to people out there. I haven't really enjoyed that, I have to say. There's been a lot of sniping and talk about people's relationships on Twitter, teachers talking about other teacher relationships. I'm off that. So again, not going to talk about it too much. Let's move on. I've been loving the summer. I've been enjoying some movies. I've been completing some video games, which is good. Completed Goemon on the N64 last night. If there are any retro gamers out there, that was a bit of an awesome experience. First time 100%ing it. Question I ask you, moviegoers and gamers, when approaching a series, all right, and I hope that you're listening interactively. I hope you can respond to me in the room right now on the Podbean app. When going through games or movies, all right, imagine it's something with, say, 5 or 6 entries, right? And they jump around a timeline. Do you watch them in chronological order or in release order? All right. Do you go from the first bit of media that was released and watch it in time order so you kind of see it culturally develop and technologically develop along with special effects and things like that? Or do you prioritize storyline and watch the earliest episode in the series? So if there's a prequel, say with Star Wars, would you watch the prequels first, then the original trilogy, and then the new trilogy? Or would you start with the 70s with the original films, then go with the prequel trilogy, and then go with the recent trilogy? Probably leave out the prequels altogether. Am I right? Who knows? That's my question to you as we open up the talk about Hollywood and movies. If you're watching a series of movies or playing a series of video games, do you go in time order that they were released, or do you play them in chronological order following the storyline's progression? Something to think about. So, what do you do? What do you do? I think the answer is to play them in release order or to watch movies in release order. So with the Marvel movies, I would start with Iron Man from 2008 and then watch them in the order they're released. And, eventually I get to Captain Marvel. That would be like the 20th movie, even though it's the second film canonically or chronologically. I would leave that. There's a reason for it, right? And one is because I feel like because that was the way they were intended to be received, I feel like the storyline and the prequels and all that kind of jumping back and forth is more satisfying in a way. And the surprises are more surprising if you watch them in release order, because that's the way they were intended to surprise an audience. And secondly, there's the technological bit where I think it can be weird watching a really modern movie, and which is a prequel, and then jumping back to an old style movie can feel the pacing can jar a little bit. Plus, the more complex stories become, the harder it becomes not to spoil other episodes, because say there's a Loki TV series in the Marvel universe, and there was the Black Widow movie that came out, but the Black Widow movie takes place before Avengers Endgame, but there's a post-credit scene that happens after Avengers Endgame, and so would spoil what happens in Endgame if you were watching it in chronological order. So my advice is to watch in release order, people. And that's why I started playing Metroid with the original NES Metroid, currently on the Super NES Super Metroid game, and then I will go on to Metroid Prime, which is on the GameCube. But anyway, enough about random summer hobbies and things that we do. And I hope you guys are all having a great summer. Anybody been on any trips? I'm heading off to Ireland in a couple of days, seeing the parents for the first time in almost 2 years. So kind of a big deal there, or not 2 years, more like 18, 19 months. 20 months. I mean, it was March 2019 was last time I saw him. So a while. It's been a while. How about you guys? Have you guys been enjoying reconnecting with people that you haven't been around? Maybe you're still a bit anxious about reconnecting. I hope your summer's proven well. I hope you're managing to wind down. I think I need to wind down a bit more. I'm still kind of chugging back the coffees and getting lots done. I still haven't done my garden and things like this. But I'm feeling like I need to just get on the green tea and the middle of the day naps and, embrace the break that we are in right now. I hope you guys are. I hope you guys are enjoying. Tim's in the room. I hope you've been on some nice walks, Tim. Tom Hopkinsburg finally in his break. I hope you've been sitting back and enjoying a breather here and there. And welcome to the room, people who are checking in throughout the episode. There's someone, Badger 339373. the badger thing, I can't say I fully get. On Twitter, there's a whole badger community going on. I don't get it, but welcome. I'm glad you're here. Who else? Ershkin 2V is in the room. And welcome to Teachers Talk Radio. We are going to be talking movies, guys. We're talking teachers in movies and how they're depicted. What teachers are the best teachers in movies? What teachers are the worst examples in movies? And what teachers are the most honest examples in movies? And that one is, I think, will be an interesting one. I think that's going to be a little divisive. I think some of us will be aspiring to what we want to be the most honest version of a teacher. Some of us might be a little bit more real, maybe, about what is the true honest teacher. One that always stood out to me, have you seen, I hope that many of you have seen The Hangover, right? It was ruined by rubbish sequels, unfortunately. But the original movie, when it came out, was pretty massive, and it was amazing. It was funny. It made me laugh a lot. It hasn't aged particularly well, but for its time, it was a big deal. And like I say, it's been since ruined by poor sequels and hasn't held up great. But The Hangover, in that movie, Bradley Cooper plays a teacher, and to be honest, it doesn't play a great role in the movie. It's only mentioned once or twice, but the first scene he appears, he's in his classroom and he's finishing up the last day before the weekend. I thought it was the end of term, but I watched a little clip over like yesterday, and it looked more like it was just a weekend. But anyway, he checks out, and as he's walking out of the school, a kid comes up to ask him about homework, and he says, "Hold on, I think I wrote it down actually. Let me have a look. I should quote this properly. It deserves proper quoting." Where are you, Hangover quote? I have so many things written down about movies today. It's ridiculous. So he goes, "It's the weekend. I don't know you. You do not exist." To a kid asking about homework, after the bell has gone on Friday. I love that. To me, that's like teacher goals. If I could be that honest with kids and just like, no, don't talk to me. You can't talk to me now. I'm in my own time. That would be like peak teacher goals. I'm not far off that in my real life. I do say to my kids, I say, if you try and add me on social media, I'm not going to accept you guys. I will block you and move on with my life. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. So that, I feel like I'm channeling the same vibes as Bradley Cooper, but he's a bit more, obviously, him saying to their face on the way out of school is pretty awesome. So that's my current teacher goals. Perhaps I should hang my head in shame there, but that's something I do often, as many regular listeners will know. So let's have a little look. Year sixers on social media, Tom Hopkins Burke says, yes, of course they do. They shouldn't be, but of course this is what happens. Most of them are on WhatsApp these days, but years ago, Instagram, a couple of years ago, I'd have a few people try and add me, and so I just hit the nail on the head. I don't speak to them privately or say, listen, I'm not going to add you. I just, I'll say to my whole class, I said, listen, a couple of people of you spotted me on social media, going to tell you all now, I'm never going to follow you. I'm never going to accept your requests. Don't do it. It's weird. And that's literally the words I will say to them. I'm not making that sound harsher than what I will. That's the joy of teaching year sixes, I think. You can kind of be a bit more direct with them. But I was really feeling those Bradley Cooper vibes. When I saw that film originally, I wasn't a teacher. But even then, I think I knew if I was a teacher, that is where I'd be shooting. He had some cool red sunglasses, which I could never pull off. But, it's all the vibe, so there's one. Let's talk some of the iconic teachers then. School of Rock, right? You can't go far without talking about School of Rock. Jack Black plays a rock teacher. He's a music teacher, and high energy. Peak Jack Black, over the top energy, working with a bunch of kids, which they always say don't make films with kids or whatever, but this is a really cool set of kids. He kind of does his Jack Black thing. He turns them all into rock and roll cool kids. They all become more comfortable in themselves and their weirdness. And all I remember, I haven't seen the film really recently, all I remember is at the end, there's some crisis of competition. I imagine he probably gets kicked off the school or something. Oh, they can't go to the competition anymore. And he gets so impassioned. No, they've got to go to this competition. He essentially kidnaps the bus of school kids so they can go to the competition. What do you think of that? Is that a role model teacher? Should we be breaking the rules sometimes? I think we should. I don't think we should kidnap buses of kids, sure. But the message of it is sometimes, should you bend the rules for the greater good, for the kids, is that's the question of School of Rock from a teacher's point of view. Should you kidnap kids if they are going to go for a competition? If it's good for their mental health and their well-being, is it okay to kidnap? a, a bus full of kids. That's what I asked you today, Teachers Talk Radio. Listen, welcome to Teachers Talk Radio. If you've just switched on, I'm Graham Collum. We're talking teachers of Hollywood, teachers in the movies, teachers on TV series, UK as well. Who are the best teachers? Who are the worst teachers? Can we disagree? Can we debate? Please fill me in if you have your own insights on these teachers in movies and TV shows and things, or perhaps I don't mention one and you think, how dare he not mention Mrs. Trunchbull or something, then call in and get involved. I want to hear your opinions. Right now, I'm talking about Jack Black and School of Rock. Some people are, on the comments on Twitter, it was kicking off yesterday and today, all the opinions on teachers in movies. One person said Jack Black is the reason he became a teacher. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? School of Rock is the reason you became a teacher. I think that's great. I think it's that positive energy, bring in your own thing, bring in your unique edge, because that's the thing with Jack Black. The whole point is, he doesn't really fit the mold of a classroom teacher, but the difference he makes, the joy he brings, brilliant, wonderful. So I'm all about that. And listen, I'm not going to lie. I'm a tall, skinny, not rock and rolly looking guy at all, but I have been compared to Jack Black and School of Rock because, of course, I have had my own little rock band club in my school where we did some Coldplay songs or David Bowie songs, and it was cool. For about 5 years, I'd basically audition at the start of the year, and then through the year we'd put together 3 or 4 basically cover songs, and we'd then do a performance at the end of the year. We did like a gig where we'd perform all the songs they'd learned that year in front of the school. It was cool, man. We had a drummer, pianist, guitarist, and a bunch of singers. And that was always how you fill out your numbers, with the singers. One year I think we had 2 guitarists. I think we had one essentially doing the lead guitar and the other one doing like a bass line. It's good times. So there you go. My own little Jack Black claim to fame there. Thank you, Jack Black. Maybe you inspired me in some way as well. So there's Jack Black. Thoughts on him? Let's have a little look. Tom Hopkins Burke says, my teachers were in a band when I was at school called Hip Replacement. That is an amazing band name. Hip Replacement. There's so many things you can read into that name. That's brilliant. Very, very cool, Tom Hopkins Burke. And actually, I've known teachers. When I was on my teacher training in Bath, one of my schools I was training in, the head teacher and the deputy head were in a band with some other teachers from other schools. I think the head played guitar and the deputy head was a drummer. And it's really cool. And they went around. They did. I don't think it was Hip Replacement. One of the teachers was called Mr. Poirot, in case it's the same guys, Tom Hopkins Burke. But a teacher band, I have to say, is not something I've done myself. I would love to. A band is one of those things. I'm not good enough to be like in a proper band, but I could certainly kick back a few tunes. And I'm one of these typical primary school teachers, jack of all trades, master of none. I can play drums, I can play guitar, I can play piano, but neither of them I play very well. I play them to a degree which like young kids look at you and go, wow, but an adult would look at you and go, so perfect primary school, if you ask me. But good times. Teacher bands, there's another conversation for another week. Today we are talking teachers of Hollywood, and we talk School of Rock a little bit. I'm asking the ethical questions about kidnapping the class to take part in their competition to boost their well-being and sense of selves. Was it okay that Jack Black kidnapped the school? In a different league of kind of controversial teachers, there's Bad Teacher, starring Cameron Diaz. I actually rewatched a few clips from that this morning, and I forgot how cool the other teachers are in it. Not cool as in like good teachers, but they're really well, like good characters to throw into a school environment on in a movie where there's like the one who seems like a really lovely teacher, puts loads of effort in, but there's mad passive aggression. Like really like, I'm better than you, and big smile. Oh yeah, I can help you out, but just so you know, this is what I'm going to do. And it's played really, really well. So Bad Teacher is worth a watch. The idea being Cameron Diaz is somebody who quits teaching, but things don't go well in her life, so she ends up going back into it, even though she doesn't really want to. She's kind of not good at the job, hates doing the job. But so comedy ensues, and on it goes. Although I must say there's an interesting thing that comes up in Bad Teacher, and I'm going to come back to it a few times probably in the show, but I'll bring it in now, seeing as we're talking about Bad Teacher with Cameron Diaz. So early on, when she's introduced, and we're essentially establishing her character of being a not very morally centered teacher, right? And so she's being kind of rude to people. She's speeding out of the building in a kind of sports car. She's in a Mercedes. there's this, and she's dressed really well, right? She got like designer clothes, really fancy handbag. Now, and I'm pointing out those things deliberately because there's an odd thing about teachers in Hollywood movies and teachers in general on TV series as well, in that generally we're depicted as like not very well off. We're working class, we might be struggling a little bit financially. And what I noticed when looking at all of these teachers in movies yesterday, I noticed any teachers who are well off are depicted as bad teachers. So there's an element of maybe if you're not spending your money on loads of other people and doing, being essentially kind of charitable all the time and giving all your money away and not looking after yourself, then like you're not morally good. Do you know what I mean? There's this undercurrent in quite a few movies, and I'll come back to a few. But it's like the impression is that good teachers are hard up. If you look at Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting, right? He's not in a good spot. He doesn't dress really well. He doesn't drive a fancy car. He's down on his luck a little bit, but he's morally a beautiful person and really inspiring role model. Most teachers follow that. I'm thinking of The Ring, School of Rock is another good one. Um, oh, there's a ton I've got listed down here. I can barely even center myself to gather them. Um, Ross Geller might be the exception. Ross Geller being, he's someone who kind of, I don't know, he lives in a flat, doesn't he? There's just an odd thing, but financially, there's a few teacher examples I'll come to them later on, where they're well-off teachers. They're financially doing well, but they're bad teachers. And teachers who are working class, who are not doing so well for money, are depicted as morally good teachers. It's a weird thing, and I wonder what's going on there. What societal message is being kind of woven into movies that teachers who are doing well for money are not good? Like, why is that a bad thing? I guess generally rich characters can be depicted as bad in movies because there's that idea about hoarding money and keeping things for yourselves, I guess. Let's have a look at the comments here. Krishna says, there's a conflict between intent and action, isn't there, in School of Rock? Right. So the intention to, and also the necessity of it, that is the only way to help those kids by kidnapping their bus and taking them to the competition. Yeah, it's tricky. But then there's also the element of, does the ends justify the means? Because it all ended well, didn't it? It all went well in the end. So maybe he did the right thing. Maybe he had the foresight. Sobia, controversially, has thrown in the comments, Ross Geller flames. As in, like, big fan of Ross Geller. Now, I love him as a guy, as a character. Brilliant. David Schwimmer, amazing. Pivot. Amazing character in general. However, let's not ignore the elephant in the room, or should I say dinosaur in the room. He dates a student. He dates one of his students. And it's not even like, I find it weird, the friends thing with his relationship with a student, because it's kind of justified for a while, and it's kind of like, this is fine. Like they run with it for like a season, I think, or at least half a season. Where really you would think a story like that should be like a single episode. It should be like a flurry. Oh, is it right? Is it wrong? Oh, it's not going to work out. And we learn our lesson and we move on. But yeah, it's a funny one. Above age consent, but yeah, that was his quarter midlife. Indeed. So they were out of the legal like zone, but just the role of a teacher and a pupil in general is pretty murky waters. And I find it funny that friends may be quite brave, really, to kind of take it on and go, yeah, they're in a relationship, that happens. This is a thing that can work in some ways. Obviously, they repeatedly addressed the oddness of it with the parent meeting Ross and how weird that was, and the social elements of her being younger. And there was a lot of that came in, the maturity difference between them. I know that came into storylines, but I don't know, for me, and this is just my personal opinion, it's not right or wrong or anything like that, but it just sat a bit uncomfortable that they just kind of ran with it like normal. But they did do that in Friends a few times. They had these kind of like slightly controversial situations, and they just be like, yeah, let's investigate that. Let's see what happens. And I think that can be applauded to some degree. But when I was thinking about it yesterday, I had to say I was thinking negatively on Ross Geller. I was thinking, ooh, Ross, dating a student, not, a bit of a no-go. I think that was the initial, when I was talking to my wife about it yesterday, that was the initial response to Ross dating the wife was, not cool, Ross Geller. What do you think? Is it okay if they're old enough for it to be legal? Is it all good? Is it all on the table? Does it make him less of a decent teacher if he has dated somebody who he's gone out with. Sam Coulburn in Never Been Kissed. That's a really good example. Actually, my wife said that one yesterday in the car. I've never seen Never Been Kissed, but I believe from my memory of my wife saying yesterday, the one is undercover, right? I think the pupil is undercover in the school, and then she ends up dating a teacher who, so she is old enough, but I don't know if the teacher knows that she's old enough. Oh, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird that does it need to be in movies? Maybe it does. Maybe there's an element of addressing those elephants in rooms. Maybe. I love it though. I love the way teaching in movies is so, depending on what movie you watch, like teaching and teachers are represented so differently. I think it's fascinating to think about how it reflects on the filmmakers, on Hollywood in general, and on society in general. There's a lot to be talked about, and obviously that's why we're here today on our Hollywood movie. But we are at the half-hour slot, which means it's time for the news. It's time for an ad break, and then we're going to get into a ton of movies. Look, I'm just going to fly down this list so you know what's coming up, because I don't want anybody to think I'm just going to talk about Ross Geller for the next hour. I don't know if I'm going to get through all of these, but here's what we've got. We've got School of Rock and Bad Teacher. We talked those. We haven't got into The Simpsons yet. In The Ring, there's an interesting teacher moment at the start of that, so we're going to talk about that. Mr. Belding in Saved by the Bell. We're going to talk about his name as well. Star Wars, Yoda and Obi-Wan. Matilda, Mrs. Trunchbull and Miss Honey, Big Problems. In Glee, Mr. Shoe. Demon Headmaster, American History X. In X-Men, Charles Xavier. Superbad, great teaching moments in there. Friends, we talked about a little bit. Whiplash, Notes on a Scandal, Loose, Breaking Bad, The Substitute, which is one of the most amazing looking action films of all time. Teachers, the TV series, Summer Heights High, Bad Education, Good Will Hunting, Harry Potter, I haven't even mentioned yet, Fast and Furious, Kindergarten Cop, Star Trek. It's all coming up. Let's get into the news. Let's do some ads, and then let's get back to it. This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
According to a Guardian news report, universities continue to report record-breaking acceleration in A-level results in England and Wales this summer. With up to half of applicants seemingly being awarded 2 A grades, there is a suggestion that this will leave fewer places available for those who miss out on their first choice. University admissions officers are busy forecasting results, with one admissions officer reportedly suggesting that 45% of entries could be receiving A star and A grades. According to data last year, 38% of entries were awarded A or A star, in an increase on the 25% awarded in 2019. Students have not sat formal exams since 2019 due to the pandemic. Earlier this week, the government announced extra funding for medical and dental schools to cope with the higher numbers, and it has been suggested that some universities may offer incentives to students who could defer their entry until the following academic year. Many school and university leaders, however, have said that suggestions of grade inflation were unfair and unhelpful. Speaking to The Guardian, Paul Whiteman, General Secretary of the National Association of Head Teachers, said that the process of awarding grades had been carefully managed, and that each grade must have evidence to support it. Part of the increased pressure on places comes from the increase in applicants, up by 4% from last year. Students, however, will not receive their official grades until next week. In a Schools Week exclusive, Tom Belger reports that Academy Trust CEOs can now serve as advisors to regional school commissioners, even if they do not have headship experience. Elections for these posts are set to begin in September. Previously, only trust leaders who had been head teachers within the past 5 years could fill the roles. Now, serving and recently retired heads can stand for election as well as CEOs. Full details of the criteria for candidates include leading an outstanding academy in the past 4 years, serving as a CEO for at least 3 years, and will include checks on the Trust's financial records. According to the DFE, successfully elected members will provide advice and challenge to regional school commissioners. All candidates will be elected by academy heads and executive head teachers. In a further Schools Week report, the government has assembled a panel of music grandees to help create a national plan for music. The NPME was supposed to be published last autumn but was delayed by the pandemic. It is now promised early next year, although no fixed date has been given. The panel will consist of music industry representatives as well as teachers. At the same time, the government has also released a report which summarised responses to a consultation on music education. The responses include only 8.2% of respondents agreeing that high-quality music education was available to all children. And the evidence from the consultation suggests that there is significant variability across schools and across the country. The government culture minister said that she hoped the panel would help to ensure that young people from all backgrounds will have access to exceptional music education.
Oh, that's a bit of an odd end to the news there, and the ads are taking a moment to play, so they're just going to automatically start probably mid-sentence for me. But I was just catching up on Twitter and all the teacher views on there. Somebody's mentioned the teacher in South Park. What was his name? I was thinking Mr. Mackey. You know when he goes okay. But this guy's someone else. Mr. Garrison was his name. I can't remember. But anyway, he's on. He's got a mention. I can't think I'm going to say much about South Park. I don't care much for it, but he has been mentioned. For those that are thinking, will South Park get mentioned? I think next I'm going to move into kids TV for a moment and the weird teacher models they have in there, and what does that mean for kids growing up? Where are these ads, people? Come on, ads, hit me up. Major buffering on the ads, it seems. Are they playing? Can you hear them? Can you hear me? Are listeners hearing? Has it all gone terribly wrong? Hello, hello. Just type in the comments on Podbean if you can. All right, Sylvia says, yes, you can hear me. Good, good, good. All right, well, hopefully the ads will play soon. Who knows? All right, anyway, let's talk about kids shows. 3 I want to really get into. Dougie, Bing, and Cocomelon. All right? Those are the kid shows on the table. Oh, you know what? Peppa Pig would have a spot in there as well, but I don't really know much about Peppa Pig. So let me just have a quick technical play around, see if I can get these ads working, because I'll feel bad if that doesn't work. And then I'll come back in a sec with the full lowdown on kid shows for the next 10 minutes. Come on, ads. What you doing? What you playing at? Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful, and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands like Faber-Castell and Stabilo.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
It feels really great to be supporting a family business that's run by real teachers. I can't help feeling like they just know what I'm going to enjoy using stationery-wise better than I do myself.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TTRadio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club. Live from London, this is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Collum on Teachers Talk Radio. We are talking teachers in Hollywood, teachers on TV, teachers on the box. Talk to me about all the teachers you've seen in the movies and what does it mean to you? Are we being represented well? Are we being represented poorly? Is it the reason people expect too much of us? Is it the reason people expect little from us? What's going on? We are on Teachers Talk Radio and we are live from London. This is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Collum on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio. We're already getting into Bing and Dougie here in the chats. Sarah in the chat has dropped some amazing comments. Firstly, let's start with Dougie, right? Dougie is an all-round pleasant viewing experience. It's one of those great kid shows that balances content for kids, bright colors, lovely, cute storylines with little jokes for the parents and little things that the older viewers can enjoy. And I'm a big fan of that. That and Pepper get special mention for that. However, Dougie, right? As a teacher, what is Dougie? What's the role of Dougie? All right, because I don't think he's a qualified teacher. He seems to just live in a cabin in the middle of nowhere. Has 5 kids from random houses come and visit every day, and he just runs random workshops every day, which he pretends like he knows everything about them, but clearly he makes the badges himself and just he's winging it. I don't get what his role is. Is he a scout leader? Is he a teacher? Is he NQT? Is he QTS? NQT? Is he on his PGCE? Is he simply a kid, a big kid? Are they playing in a club? I'm confused, Dougie. All right, and I need answers. Mostly, what Sarah has also acknowledged, the questionable Dougie hugs at the end of every episode. There's just time for one more thing, Dougie hug, and the kids give him a little hug, and then they go. But it happens every episode. And, some episodes, maybe kid doesn't want to give you a Dougie hug. Consent matters, Dougie. I'm just saying, all right? I don't give my kids a hug at the end of every day at school. And if I did, there'd be raised eyebrows. All right, there would be. Even if I was as great a teacher as Dougie. And he is a great teacher, I'm not going to lie. We've all seen the Stick song. If you haven't, Google it right now. I don't even mind if you come off Teachers Talk Radio to listen to the Stick song because it's worth it. But then come back. That's Dougie. I just want to know what his role is, to be honest. Let's have a look. I may have missed him, but if no one's mentioned Samuel L. Jackson and Coach Carter, I'm disappointed. Coach Carter has been mentioned by many. I haven't seen it, shockingly, but Coach Carter, we will get to Coach Carter in this episode. But I find it. I don't want to blur Dougie with Coach Carter. There would be a universe crossover I would pay for. Dougie featuring Coach Carter. Get it done. Let's get writing to whoever makes Dougie episodes or whoever made Coach Carter. Maybe we could have Coach Carter too, educating Dougie. Who knows? Bing. Let's talk Bing. Another questionable learning situation. So Amma is a little elephant teacher. She's a little kind of woven kind of elephant, a little blue elephant that lives. It's blurry lines for Amma, to be honest. I love Amma. I think she's an amazing character, and she's clearly one of the strongest characters in Bing. There's a lot of pushovers, and it's weird in Bing, if you watch it, how much the world revolves around Bing and what he wants. Like he makes a lot of duff decisions, and sometimes he's straight mean, all right? But no one ever calls him out on it. No one ever says, Bing, maybe you should say sorry. No one's ever said that to Bing, except maybe Amma. Amma, again, she's also the only character in Bing who has a little kind of nod to the parents watching. Like she kind of, you can see she's knackered sometimes, and she's had enough of Bing's nonsense, right? So Amma is a very cool character in Bing, and she's clearly the education leader. So in an episode I saw recently, because I have a little kid, I wasn't just watching it for research purposes, they referred to Amma's house as the creche. And I'm aware that the kids go there and they do learning things at this creche. It's in the middle of the park. But on another episode, they slept round Amma's in the same building. And then Bing's carer or parent Flop also stayed round of the night time, and it was all a little bit unplanned. It was all a bit, can I stay over? All right, Bing, sure, you can stay over. Oh, Flop's going to stay over too. All right, you can sleep on the sofa. If you're a teacher, Amma, I tell you, Ofsted will be checking you out, mate. It's not, it's frowned upon, that kind of stuff. I will no be holding a sleepover in my class. Because I'd be out of job, lads, and rightfully so. So Amma, massive fan of Amma in Bing, but I think she needs to find her boundaries a little bit. However, if you are a regular watcher of Bing, and the only reason that can be is if you have a number of young people or a young person to care for, you will, I'm sure, agree that someone needs to tell Bing to take a break and sit down, right? And the only person who does that in that show is Amma. So I think she gets a kind of a gold star. As a teacher model in kids TV, Amma, for me, is one of my top ones. And I think if kids watch Bing with an expectation of growing up, they would think, my teacher is not going to take my nonsense. And that's a good thing. So thank you, Amma. You are doing us all a service. Let's have a little look. Krishna says, Catherine Watson from Mona Lisa's Smile. She was made to resign because the management wanted her out. She rocked the boat. This still happens today. Ooh, that sounds a little bit more. I feel odd jumping from Amma in Bing to that controversial storyline. Of course, there are a lot of controversial teacher films out there, not just that one, but that one sounds awesome. I did wonder whether we should approach Notes on a Scandal today, which is a very kind of gritty take on teacher relationships. It's definitely the other end of Ross and his student relationship. Yeesh. It's UK based. It's a very much drama. Judi Dench stars. I think Cate Blanchett is the teacher in it, who then has a relationship with a younger pupil. It's all a bit controversial. However, this is my little bit I've made for talking about the kids show. So maybe we should keep Notes on a Scandal to a little bit later on. The only other kids show that I was thinking of talking about today was Cocomelon. Cocomelon. Is there any people in the room now? Khalil has just come into the room. I can almost put money on Khalil being familiar with Cocomelon. Cocomelon is a kids show. It's a weirdly hypnotic kids show. All right, it's the most viewed kids show out there. It's the second most viewed YouTube channel in the world. At any one moment, if you look at Cocomelon live on YouTube, it's got about 13 million views. It's like really bright colors, 3D animation. The camera never stops moving. And this is the thing. It hypnotizes kids, man. It's like there's so much going on in any moment. It's just like pure sensory joy for kids. And there's something about it that really Khalil's in the room. He says he has not watched Cocomelon. Well, listen, Khalil, I'm not going to say I advise it, because you will regret it. The tunes will destroy your mind. And I wake up thinking of Cocomelon tunes, and I have to limit the amount we watch it, because my boy will just demand Cocomelon all day. But weirdly, when it's on, he just sits transfixed. It's just, he just sits and watches it. No, it's weird. And then the other day we had like a 4-year-old niece round, and we put it on. So she's a lot older than my boy, and usually wouldn't watch like baby shows. She watches more like shows with storylines and Disney and stuff like that. Put on Cocomelon, she was just the same, sat silent, perplexed. So I think it properly hypnotizes kids. I think it's something about the colors, the 3D animation, the repetitive songs, and the moving camera. It all comes together with this weirdly hypnotic show. But anyway, in that, there's a teacher called Mrs. Appleberry, and she runs the kind of the creche of Cocomelon. And, she's a pretty good teacher role model. She's a kind person. She does have a song, which is all about how the teacher is the greatest. And that's a bit weird, Mrs. Appleberry. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe sing about how their families are nice, or how, their policemen are nice, the firemen, the community. Don't sing about yourself, mate. Do you know what I mean? But classic teacher, am I right? Just basically trying to get these kids on side a little bit. My teacher is the best is the way that song is. The best there ever was. I can think the tune is going in my head right now, and it may never leave. But anyway, Mrs. Appleberry, she does shoot a bit high as well in some songs. If you know the song of Apples and Bananas, and as you sing through it, you say apples and bananas, or opals and bononos, or eeples and beninis. So that's the kind of the thing of the song as you go through your vowel sounds with strong vowel sounds. Very weird and very addictive. But with Mrs. Appleberry, when she goes through the sounds, she puts on the board like an I and the spelling of I, E-Y-E. I'm thinking, what kids in this creche are going to be able to read E-Y-E as the word I? But, she's an educator. She's doing it. She pulls out all the stops. I'm not going to lie. She's growing pumpkins outside and other vegetables. She's making vegetable soup with them. So Mrs. Appleberry, I can't lie. She gets another gold star from me. Well done, Mrs. Appleberry. You are a role model to us teachers, and you're preparing kids well for what they expect. Maybe they might expect too much, though. You might be overhyping them, and they'll be a little bit disappointed when they get to school. Let's see. Nathan says, our year R teacher hates me for teaching her class apples and bananas. It is the worst. Literally, like, it comes in my head all the time. I think I woke up thinking about it the other day, and it's not a good song. I'm holding back on singing it right now. Mrs. Gazelle and her band. So another teacher band being mentioned here. Mrs. Gazelle and her band from Peppa Pig. Proper backstory I would want to see. Spin-off. Mrs. Gazelle and her band sounds like a spin-off show from Peppa Pig. So let's get it done. Khalil, just watch 30 seconds of Cocomelon. The vibrancy hurt my eyes. And the weird, like, their expressions, it's like they smile to this like weird degree where it's really quite creepy. A bit like, you know, where horror movies have like a doll that's really creepy. That's pretty much Cocomelon, but with a moving camera and songs. So there you go. That's my little bit on kids' TVs. Anyway, let's get back to movies and TV shows. So listen, this time is flying by. We've got a lot to cram in the next 40 minutes. So what I'm going to do is next 10 minutes, we're going to talk through as many movies as we can and going through all the things that they do. On the hour of 12, we'll go through, as usual, we'll get our news, we get our ads, and then we are going to talk through teaching awards in movies. We're going to talk who's the best teacher in movies, who's the worst teacher in movies, who's the most honest depiction of a teacher, who has the most redemptive arc, the most supply teachery moment, most growth mindset moment, most controversial moment, and so forth. All right, that's the last half hour. But for the next 10 minutes, let's just get into all the movies that are out there, some that kind of don't have a place in these other spots. So if you've seen Superbad, there's a great scene in Superbad. That's another comedy from probably 10 or so years ago now. Michael Cera's kind of breakout film, really, with Jonah Hill. Where they're both teenagers in school. And to be fair, there's not many classroom scenes, given their age. There's a lot of them around school, but not many in the class. There is one scene, however, where they're in a food tech class. And I can't get into it much because it involves a fair bit of swearing, but it's a great, great scene. You can just Google the scene. It's like Superbad food tech scene or whatever, food scene. And the one guy is talking to his teacher, and he's stressed, and he's always on his own because there's an odd number of kids in the class, and he's kind of lays into this teacher about, I'm on my own. Everybody else looks like they're having loads of fun. Why can't you pair me up with someone else? And he's just saying how rubbish the subject is, and you know, everybody takes food for a joke because it's an easy A. And all the rest. And so anyway, look at that scene. It's a good, to be fair, the teacher in that scene handles it really well, though, because the kids swears loads, but every time he swears, he says, sorry for cursing, and he goes on his rant. And then at the end of the rant, rather than laying into him about the swearing and being rude and all that, she just goes, all right, well, somebody there is without a partner, so pair it with her. And that's it. Problem de-escalated the situation like a boss. So well done, food tech teacher in Superbad. We're in a situation that if it was me, I would probably have taken a long talking route about swearing and, well, listen, if you want to get your own way, it's not the way to go about it, blah, blah, blah. And I'd try and make some big thing out of it. Whereas actually, she just de-escalated. That's a classic secondary school teacher as well. It's like knowing how to just de-escalate, manage, and move on. Very, very well managed from the female teacher in Superbad, food tech teacher in Superbad. That's a cool movie moment. All right, one of the best. I hope you've seen it if you're in the room. Have you seen Whiplash? Whiplash. What a movie. It was an Oscar winner, actually. It was a big, big Oscar winner at the time. J.K. Simmons is the main star in it. There's a younger guy, I can't think of his name. He was in a bunch of movies a while ago. Then he did Fantastic Four as the main guy in Fantastic Four. And since then, we haven't heard much from him. But Whiplash, a movie about a drummer, aspiring drummer who's like world class in his skill, then trying to make it big, but having to work with this teacher who is J.K. Simmons, who is an absolute psycho. If you haven't watched it, I just need you to watch it. All right, get out and watch Whiplash because it's just such a cool film. Not only is it cool in terms of the music of it and all the stuff they're playing and the twists and turns of the plot, just J.K. Simmons alone as a terrifying teacher is just amazing, and the intensity at which he plays. Because, of course, we're talking about world-class standard of teaching. We're talking somebody who must obsess with what they're doing in order to reach the standards that they're reaching. And there's kind of a root of it. And this is the thing with Whiplash. As much as he is absolutely psychotic and terrifying, there's a part of you that goes, but is that the way when it comes to being the best in the world at something? You know, is that always going to be the case? Is there always going to be this unhealthy kind of obsessive kind of element to it? Can you be the best in the world at something if you're not absolutely obsessed to an almost psychotic degree with it? And that's a question I guess the film poses, and we put it out there. Or is it worth it? Is the question the film poses. Maybe the film is saying you have to be that crazy and that into it if you want to be world class, but is it worth it? Is it worth it, to be world class? Should you have to? Or just leave it? Just let somebody else take it if they want. I don't know, but Whiplash, a hell of a movie, great like drumming scenes, great music, twists and turns of the plot. But J.K. Simmons, there is one scene, not quite my tempo, all right, is all I'm going to say. If you've seen the film, that line, not quite my tempo, is going to trigger an emotional response in you. And I don't want to say any more because I don't want to spoil it for listeners. But if you want a Sunday watch, which is going to blow your mind, keep it for the evening, right? It's an evening watch. You don't want to watch it with kids. But get Whiplash watched. It's such a cool movie, but also just the teacher element, I'd love to debate that with somebody. If you want to talk about J.K. Simmons in Whiplash and whether his type of teaching has some relevance in the world, call in. Maybe there's a place for throwing a symbol at a child. He's not a child, to be fair. He's 18, 19 years old or something. He's college age, but still throwing a symbol at someone in order to get them to work harder. Does it work? Does it work? Stick or carrot, people. That is what I guess that is an uber simplification of Whiplash. And there's a lot going on in Whiplash, but there's a little bit of it to talk about there. Breaking Bad. Any takers on Breaking Bad? I'm just going to let that one hang for a moment. Breaking Bad is the story of a teacher who finds out he has terminal cancer and so decides to use he's a science teacher, uses his science knowledge and science lab and equipment to develop crystal meth, I think, and basically become a drug dealer. I've only seen the first episode or two. I think the first 2 or 3 episodes I've seen. I was hooked. I loved it. Why I said it was too intense for her. She didn't want to go through the whole ups and downs. You could tell it was going to get really intense. So she was like, no, wasn't up for it. Breaking Bad. What do you think? Good teacher, bad teacher? Obviously emotionally unstable teacher. And that again is something that comes up in a number of American depictions of teachers. Is not only the working class thing I came to earlier, that usually teachers, if they're rich, they're depicted as bad teachers. And if they're not doing so well financially, they're depicted as good teachers. But there's also an element of teachers being in like a state of crisis all the time, not just in a film like Bad Teacher with Cameron Diaz, which is of course where she's particularly in a state of emotional crisis. The whole point of the film is that she's going through whatever she's going through. But in Breaking Bad, obviously his life is falling apart around him, and that's where he is as a teacher. The teachers in Spider-Man, in the Spider-Man movies, the newer ones, right, Homecoming and Far From Home, they spend a lot of time at school in those movies. Surprising amount of time, really, considering they're Spider-Man movies. They spend a lot of time in school. And so there is a teacher called Mr. Harrington, and there's another one called Mr. Dell, who are kind of they pop up a few times in the movies, and they're largely comedy characters. They're light relief. But, Mr. Harrington has this really dark edge to him where most of his jokes have a really depressive edge on them. And there's this element again about like a suffering teacher. And I really think it's something in America. It's something about the way teachers are being depicted that's kind of like saying this is how teachers should be. But a little insight into Mr. Harrington in the Spider-Man movies. One time they come back from a crazy trip and there was a big dangerous thing. Spider-Man saved the day. And they're filming his reaction. And they say, look, I'm just glad we didn't lose anyone. And then he holds it for a moment. And no, I'm glad we made it. We didn't lose a kid again. But it's that again is like one of these moments like that he's basically lost a kid on a trip before, or maybe the kid has died on a trip before. And then in the second movie, it goes even worse. He's on a plane and he's sat next to Peter Parker, who's the main character. And he says, oh, did I ever tell you about the time my wife pretended to to blip out, to say that basically his wife left him, but pretended that she died and then ran off. And then he only ran into her another point and found out she hadn't died. And it's just really dark, so amongst the light relief, and it is funny and it's done in a really good way, but amongst the light relief, there's this element of like struggling teachers, people not stable. And Mr. Dell, who's the other teacher who goes on the trip in the second Spy-On movie, Far From Home, he's a conspiracy theorist. He's into all the aliens and the silver hats and the witches and wizards and all this kind of, so he's kind of unstable in that sense, where he really doesn't have himself together. He's quite selfish as well. When there's dangerous moments, he's just off to save himself, not worried about the others. So let me just think about some teachers in crises that are there. Mrs. Trunchbull and Miss Honey and Matilda, we haven't spoken about lots. Mrs. Trunchbull, obviously, there's a lot to get into there, and we're just on the hour of 12, so I'm not going to get into it loads. Miss Honey, adopting kids who are in need in her class. When you're a kid, you don't question it. You watch it, you think, oh, what a lovely thing. Now Matilda's life is sorted, and Miss Honey has that kind of part of her life fulfilled now. She has someone to care for. But this is a kid in her class, guys. A kid in her class. Have you ever thought about adopting a kid in your class? Do you think that'd be all right? Miss Honey does not get a gold star from me. I'm sorry. Amma, gold star. Mrs. Appleberry, gold star. Miss Honey, hold your horses, all right? You're not getting a gold star just yet. I think she's questionable. I'm not a big fan. Also, looking past the Matilda's telekinetic powers, I think, we need to address the elephant in the room, Miss Honey, and kind of talk about what's going on here and get responsible with these powers. Because Matilda, she shouldn't just be allowed to run amok. We know that she, there is some discipline needed there. I'm not sure Miss Honey is the one. I'm concerned with some movies, some most often set in boarding schools, with X-Men, Harry Potter, and Matilda. There's a little element of kind of grooming kids to what you want them to be. The teachers kind of overstep the lines in all of those movies. X-Men, it's like you're only teaching these kids because you want them to be part of your X-Men and serve you when they're older. Harry Potter, there's all kinds of problems with Harry Potter. I don't even know if we're going to get into Harry Potter today. I don't know if we're going to have time. But massive problems with Harry Potter and the faculty in Harry Potter and the relationships with kids. Like Snape, fraternizing with Potter's mum. What's going on there? Back off. Look, move on. She's married. All right, get out. Stop obsessing over the child as well. It's weird, man. Dumbledore, major issues. Awarding, you all saw Philosopher's Stone. When they award the points, he says Slytherin won. He goes, they get the points. Everyone celebrates. He allows that celebration. He sits back. He's like, watch this, lads. Watch these guys celebrate. Then once Slytherin have done all their jumping around, we won. He goes, just one more thing. An extra 300 points for whatever the house is, Gryffindor. And then they lose. I'm like, oh, Dumbledore, that is poor leadership. Because he was loving it. Dumbledore is a Gryffindor through and through. And he was lording it over Slytherin. And I would have words. Get Ofsted involved. Get Ofsted. How Ofsted have not closed down Hogwarts? I don't know. These private schools, what are they like? Anyway, let's have a little break. Let's have the news. We'll have hopefully the other set of adverts. And then we're going to get into the awards for movies. Best teacher, worst teacher, and a whole ton of others. Let's do this. This is Teachers Talk Radio. And this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
According to a Guardian news report, universities continue to report record-breaking acceleration in A-level results in England and Wales this summer. With up to half of applicants seemingly being awarded 2 A grades, there is a suggestion that this will leave fewer places available for those who miss out on their first choice. University admissions officers are busy forecasting results, with one admissions officer reportedly suggesting that 45% of entries could be receiving A star and A grades. According to data last year, 38% of entries were awarded A or A star, in an increase on the 25% awarded in 2019. Students have not sat formal exams since 2019 due to the pandemic. Earlier this week, the government announced extra funding for medical and dental schools to cope with the higher numbers, and it has been suggested that some universities may offer incentives to students who could defer their entry until the following academic year. Many school and university leaders, however, have said that suggestions of grade inflation were unfair and unhelpful. Speaking to The Guardian, Paul Whiteman, General Secretary of the National Association of Head Teachers, said that the process of awarding grades had been carefully managed and that each grade must have evidence to support it. Part of the increased pressure on places comes from the increase in applicants, up by 4% from last year. Students, however, will not receive their official grades until next week. In a Schools Week exclusive, Tom Belger reports that Academy Trust CEOs can now serve as advisors to regional school commissioners, even if they do not have headship experience. Elections for these posts are set to begin in September. Previously, only trust leaders who had been head teachers within the past 5 years could fill the roles. Now, serving and recently retired heads can stand for election as well as CEOs. Full details of the criteria for candidates include leading an outstanding academy in the past 4 years, serving as a CEO for at least 3 years, and will include checks on the Trust's financial records. According to the DFE, successfully elected members will provide advice and challenge to regional school commissioners. All candidates will be elected by academy heads and executive head teachers. In a further Schools Week report, the government has assembled a panel of music grandees to help create a national plan for music. The NPME was supposed to be published last autumn but was delayed by the pandemic. It is now promised early next year, although no fixed date has been given. The panel will consist of music industry representatives as well as teachers. At the same time, the government has also released a report which summarised responses to a consultation on music education. The responses include only 8.2% of respondents agreeing that high-quality music education was available to all children. And the evidence from the consultation suggests that there is significant variability across schools and across the country. The Government Culture Minister said that she hoped the panel would help to ensure that young people from all backgrounds will have access to exceptional music education.
Creative Resources, made for teachers by teachers. At Creative Resources, we've been rethinking what a classroom can be. We've created a huge range of more than 2,500 original and exciting resources that span across more than 15 different subject areas. Whether you're looking for primary or secondary level resources, careers options, PSHE, arts or humanities, Creative Resources have the resources for you. We offer full curriculum packages and unique, challenging escape rooms themed on topics such as Shakespeare, Tudors, and fractions. We have quizzes, task cards, Tarsier puzzles, and lots more. Better still, more than 100 resources can be accessed for free. Just visit our website, www.cre8tiveresources.com. You can get 10% off any order you make on our website by using the discount code TT Radio. Creative Resources, made for teachers by teachers. Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands like Faber-Castell and Stabilo.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
It feels really great to be supporting a family business that's run by real teachers. I can't help feeling like they just know what I'm going to enjoy using stationery-wise better than I do myself.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TT Radio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club. Introducing the Leadership Masterclass series by Diana Osagi. Learn how to ditch your fears and develop your leadership confidence. How to deal with difficult colleagues. How to thrive when you lead in a challenging environment. And how to get colleagues to buy into your vision. Join Diana for her online leadership masterclasses starting on the 10th of July and running all the way through the summer. These sessions are the perfect way to prepare and refresh for the next academic year and beyond. Book your place at courageousleadership.co.uk/events now. The first 50 leaders to sign up get an additional free mini coaching session with Diana herself. Don't miss this. Courageous Leadership Masterclasses at courageousleadership.co.uk/events. Mrs. Crabapple. Mrs. Crabapple in The Simpsons. Another teacher in crisis. What's it all about? What's it all about? There's so many teachers in American shows, TV shows and movies that are shown as being in crisis all the time. And I can't help but wonder why it's such a consistent thing. Is it that truly reflects a lot of their teachers, or is it some kind of intention in the filmmakers or in society kind of implying that if you have to be kind of that selfless, you have to literally give your entire life to the job if you are to be a teacher or something, or that teachers, is it kind of an insult to teachers to say that it's kind of people who can't handle their lives very well end up in teaching, like Cameron Diaz, like Mrs. Crabapple, like what are all the other ones I was thinking? There's tons that I've mentioned already today. School of Rock, Jack Black in there, and all the other ones who we mentioned previously. Good Will Hunting. There's so much to talk about. Right. I don't think we're going to fit this all in the next 20 minutes. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get into our teacher awards for the rest of this show. And the other ones, because there's so much good chat on the other ones. We have barely talked about The Simpsons. We haven't talked about the Ring teacher, who I really like to talk about. We haven't talked about Mr. Belding from Saved by the Bell. Can we just talk about his name? Mr. Belding. It's like a bell ringing. Ding, ding. Belding. Did you ever spot that before? Because I didn't. I was way too old. Must have been about 2 years ago. I realized Belding was a pun on bells ringing. So Mr. Belding, he's quite an exception to the rule as well, and that he is quite an interesting story arc where he kind of starts off quite mean, I think, in Saved by the Bell, and then by the end of it, he's kind of down with the kids. He's kind of a nice and reasonable guy, but he goes through a process. We haven't even spoken about Star Wars. Yoda, questionable teacher, I would say, and Obi-Wan, and actually the different types of learners in Star Wars. You get Luke, who in the original movies, he's very much your ideal pupil, very much, bird hatch out of an egg. Oh, teach me everything. This is great fun. Oh, I love it. And then you have Han Solo, who's more of a learning through experience type. And I find that interesting, the contrast between them. And then, of course, what we have now with the more recent movies is what happens to those learners as they get older. The old blind optimist, that was Luke Skywalker, becomes a jaded and cynical old man who's losing hope. Perhaps there's something to be said there. Who knows? Han Solo, however, more consistent. His perhaps a healthier stance to learn through experience. Mr. Shu in Glee, we haven't mentioned. Very dodgy, very dodgy. Apparently one of his pupils is his best man. He catches another pupil in the shower singing so he can get them on the choir. All very dodgy, all very dodgy. The Faculty we haven't spoken about, which is a movie about teachers who get taken over by aliens and try to murder their pupils. The Demon Headmaster is a classic that we haven't mentioned. American History X, I'd love to get into another week. X-Men. The arrogance and kind of holier than thou Charles Xavier and his storyline that he goes through, definite safeguarding issues with the boarding school there. And you can't talk about boarding school safeguarding issues without talking about Harry Potter, of course. The Substitute, right? I probably won't talk about again, but there's 4 movies in a Substitute series, right? And honestly, I saw them this morning and they've changed my life, and now I need to watch them. The Substitute, right? The tagline for The Substitute, it's an action movie, okay? And on the cover, there's like a teacher, blackboard, desk and all this, but the teacher is holding like an AK-47. And it looks amazing. The Substitute, there are 4 movies. The tagline for the first movie, the most dangerous thing about school used to be the students. Amazing. Get me signed up to that. Why are they not still making Substitute movies? Because I tell you, if they made 4, there must have been an audience for them. So I reckon get remaking The Substitute. What a tagline. The most dangerous thing about school used to be the students. Did it? What school are you working in? I thought it'd be some tools in the caretaker's shed or the asbestos in the walls. Why is the most dangerous thing the pupils? Sort your school out. Clearly, they need the substitute to go in and clean up. We haven't talked about Bad Education or Summer Heights High or Teachers, which are all TV series which center around, maybe that could be an episode on its own, just TV series about it. Good Will Hunting, I'd really like to get into that with Robin Williams. Overshadowed, though, by Dead Poets Society. Who knows? We'll get into a lot of this. We'll get into a lot of this later. We got 15 minutes. So I'm going to start getting through the awards that I have. Most redemptive teacher arc, all right, in movies is going to surprise you. I've gone with The Rock. In what movie does The Rock play a teacher role? Anybody know? It's not going to be what you expect. But I found it and I watched the scene yesterday to make sure I wasn't wrong. It's Fast and Furious. The Rock is a soccer coach in Fast and Furious 8, The Fate of the Furious, if you kept watching them up to that point. It opens on a scene where he's training a girls' soccer team, girls' football team in the States, or say soccer, right? When in Rome. And the funny thing is, the reason I've gone with that for most redemptive is because when watching it this time, I realized the whole purpose of that scene is because they're basically trying to address the massive, massive sexism that comes with The Rock's character when he first comes into the series. So when he first comes in, it's Fast and Furious 5. Yes, I'm a big Fast and Furious fan. Of course I am. So Fast and Furious 5, he comes in and he's wildly sexist, like awful, really terrible example. And it did not age well at all. And clearly the filmmakers know that it didn't age well. And they probably thought this is going to be a problem for us if we don't address it in some way. So they basically, in the span of those moves, they tried to do different things to kind of give him a more friendly edge and get him on side with the team. And, he's not so bad anymore. But they clearly need to make a big move to address the really bad sexism that was in Fast and Furious 5. And so in the 8th movie, they open with this. He's training the girls' soccer team, which his daughter is on. Shows great affection for his daughter. And then while these agents come over to him to talk to him about, government problems and we need your help with this, grown-up stuff, then he's basically like, listen, the most important thing to me is this girls' soccer team, and government stuff can wait. And, it's a massive change for his character, and it shines a whole different light on him as a person. And it really softens you as a viewer. It softens you to him. And I do think they do well to patch over the awfulness of his sexism in previous films, with this, having a daughter, female soccer, girls soccer club coach, and the care he has for those as well, and the kind of how much he's into the job of training them. Very, very cool. So The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, which is always how I'm going to refer to him until I die, he gets most redemptive arc. Most supply teacher moment. I can't believe I haven't mentioned this movie yet. Most supply teacher moment. Type the movie, if you know the movie, from this quote. Shut up! That's it. That's the quote. I'll do it one more time. I really have to do it for a long time, though. I kind of canned it there. I should have done it for longer. Shut up! Sobia's got it. It's Kindergarten Cop. The most supply teacher moment is Arnie comes into the class, and a friendly teacher, Miss Honey Vibes, says to him, look, first tip about having a kindergarten class, never turn your back on them. And he, in classic overconfident male style, he's like, they'll be all right. That's terrible accent. I'm so sorry, Austrians. I have offended myself. Never mind, Austrians. I will no longer try and do a Arnie impression. But anyway, he says they'll be all right. Then he turns around and, of course, they're tearing up the classroom in the best way. Like, it's so true. When you look at it, you're like, that is, if kids could do what they wanted in a classroom, this is what they would be doing. There's a kid being pulled around in a cart. They're painting the walls, like, really loads. And they're just, totally going wild in there. And so he's looking at the left, he's looking right, and he's losing his mind. Eventually, he breaks out in the famous, infamous shut up shout, which is amazing and worth viewing on its own. My wife saw it for the first time yesterday. She was like, this is amazing. I need to watch this film. And then they all start crying, of course. So he does the shut up, which is like gets them quiet, and you think, all right, so we're going with a kind of a totalitarian movie here. But then they all start crying. He's like, oh, don't start that, don't start crying. And they all start crying. So then he runs out and he gets a pet. He gets a ferret from his car to be the family pet. I didn't watch enough of the movie recently to get why he has a ferret in his car, but then not family pet, class pet. And that's how he resolves that problem. And then, but the weird thing, when he comes back with the ferret as the class pet, they're all behaving normally. So he's ran out of the school building quite a distance as well. It shows where his car is. It's not a 10-second turnaround. He's all the way out to the car, gets the ferret out of the car, all the way back in. You'd think by that point they will have proper trashed the place, but they're okay. They were all right. So Kindergarten Cop, you get the most supply teacher moment, because that for me reminds me very vividly of supply teachers in secondary school. Was, you know, they turn up and you just essentially tear up the room and they would lose their minds. They'd probably run out and try and get a class pet. So Mr. Kimball, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, undercover cop, overconfident male, which is again a kind of familiar primary school or familiar school thing. I don't know why I can't say this one. Most growth mindset moment. Do you know the movie or the series of movies if I talk about the Kobayashi Maru test? What movie series am I talking about? The Kobayashi Maru test. What film series centers some of its scenes around a Kobayashi Maru test? And it's all about growth mindset, the Kobayashi Maru test. So Sarah says Karate Kid. That's not correct, I'm afraid. Nathan is in there with Star Trek, and that is correct. It's Star Trek is the Kobayashi Maru test. And what it is, it's a test that you have to fail. It's something that basically the purpose of the test is not about passing it. It's about experiencing failure and panic and not being able to save the day. It's basically a simulation that whatever decisions you make, it's going to go wrong. You're going to fail it. And it's about how you cope with the failure and how you deal with it, inevitable failure. So Sobia says I would pass that one then. I think I would too. I think I'm all right with failure, but I think it's such a great idea for a test. And the terrible thing about it is that, see, Nathan says that's a terrible message for students. I don't know. I think failure is a part of the steps towards success, isn't it? Like anybody who's won gold at the Olympics has failed previously, right? Anybody who's won a marathon has failed multiple times before. You have to fail before you succeed. So I would argue I'm a big fan of the message of the Kobayashi Maru test. However, the problem with it is that the way it's used in the films is that the guy essentially hacks into it and changes it so he wins. And oh, isn't he great? He found a way around it. And then there's the question over, well, are you allowed to hack it? Because you're allowed to do anything in the test to pass it. The point being that you're supposed to fail it, but he's done anything and he's passed it. Is it allowed? So that was kind of the predicament of the Kobayashi Maru test. But I think it's a cool thing to do. Sobi is a fan. Nathan says not deliberately set up by their teacher. I don't know. See, I would like to set up opportunities for kids to fail. Does that make me like a really bad person? I feel like Nathan is hardcore judging me right now. Feel free, I don't mind. That's why I'm here. I quite like. Oh, also, I'm cutting Graham's shame today. Anybody who's listening thinking, come on, Graham, get to the shame. I could tell on the hour there was not going to be time in this show for Graham's shame. So I'm sorry, we're carrying it over to next week. Talking of failure, Sobia says failure is important to learn, build resilience. So true. Me and Sobia, I think we're on the right page here. Nathan, I think we need to have some growth mindset workshops with you. I think we'll get you on side. It'll take a while, but we'll get you there. Most controversial moment. What do you think? I've mentioned it already. Actually, the point of watching a teacher in a film where it really got my back up, because it wasn't addressed in the movie as a bad thing. And I was like, this is really wrong. And if it was in my school, I'd be having words with the head. I'm like, that is not cool at all. Most controversial moment has to be, any takers, any guesses? It's already been mentioned. It's Dumbledore misawarding the points to Slytherin and then kind of coming, so allowing Slytherin to think they've won, letting them celebrate fully for a long period of time, and then saying, lads, just kidding, Gryffindor took it. And then basically embarrassing all of Slytherin, making them a joke in front of the whole school, and just degrading. He used his power as a head teacher and the knowledge of knowing who was getting the points in the worst way possible. And massive boo to you, Dumbledore. You do not get a gold star from me today. You would get straight sacked in my school, Dumbledore. Get out, all right? And I haven't even started on Snape or Hagrid, who has a very odd, what is his role exactly? What is his relationship with the kids? He's dead, Well, unfortunately, Sobia, I'm aware that both the character of Dumbledore and the actor who played him have both passed away. Obviously, one fictional and one real. But of course, the criticism is on Dumbledore, the fictional character. So I don't feel too bad about, spoilers. Listen, this is a funny thing about spoilers. So listen, that moment in Harry Potter is like more than 10 years old. Why the people talk about spoilers? Yesterday, right, I completed a game that came out in 1998 and I put it on my Instagram. I put a video from the ending of the game on my Instagram and somebody was like, "You almost spoiled that for me." I think 23 years is enough time to complete the game. It's not like it's been out for a week. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm all for spoiler bars. I'm actually very sensitive to spoilers, but after 2 weeks, we're good. You've had your chance now. I'm sorry, but Dumbledore died like more than 10 years ago. I feel like Nathan is not going to be a fan of my show. Please come back in future weeks, Nathan. I'm not always mean. But no, you've had time to find out about what happens to Dumbledore now, guys. I cannot be attacked for spoiling right now. A special mention that I haven't mentioned yet. Haven't awarded, or you know what? I'll make up an award. I'll call it the Questionable Methods Award, and that goes to the one and only Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid, because although his lessons always ended up with some deep meaning, were they deliberate? Did he plan to teach those amazing lessons? Because I think he was just trying to get his car washed, to be honest. I'm trying to remember the context of Daniel-san washing cars, wax on, wax off. Was he washing Mr. Miyagi's car? Or was it somebody else's car? Was he just washing cars on the weekend and Mr. Miyagi turned up? Or was it Mr. Miyagi's car? I feel like it was Mr. Miyagi's car. In which case, pull the other one. If I tried that, right? If I was like, kids, we got a really special lesson today. We're going around my house and cleaning it. I don't think I'd get away with it. So, questionable methods, Mr. Miyagi. I think I would give him the gold star. I'm a fan of Mr. Miyagi very much. I also like his calm way. He's not pretending anything. He's not trying to be their best mate. He's not trying to be Mr. Cool. He's just chill. He's himself. And I respect that. So, Mr. Miyagi, you will get a gold star, but maybe wash other people's cars, not just your own. Cheeky. Most honest moment has been mentioned already. I would award the most honest teacher moment, and not the most honest character, it's just a moment, is when Bradley Cooper is leaving class in the hangover. And the kid says to him, "Oh, about the homework, sir." And he says, what does he say again? He says, basically like, "You're dead to me. It's the weekend." I can't remember the words exactly. I think I deleted my quote now. Yes, I did. But he basically says, "Look, I'm not working now. You mean nothing to me. I'm off." And I just think, like, that's so cool. Like, well done, you, Bradley Cooper. Have that line, between home and school. And if your line has to be that harsh, I'm all for it, Bradley Cooper. You have a good weekend in Las Vegas. Be careful out there, kids. But yes, that was his leaving school and basically abandoning his role as a teacher immediately once the bell goes on Friday. I think we need more of that in the teacher world. Not too much of it, when I don't want to go around destroying kids' lives and expectations, but I think it's healthy to have a work-life balance. And I think that is depicted well in The Hangover. So you, Bradley Cooper, get the most honest moment. Most divisive teacher. Now, if you are following my thread on Twitter the other day, I put out a question, best worst teacher. And the most divisive one, the most arguments about whether they were a good or bad teacher, played by Robin Williams, but not Good Will Hunting, that I spoke about a little bit earlier. Robin Williams is teacher in Dead Poets Society. Now, I'm ashamed to say I haven't seen Dead Poets Society, but that really stirred up some, like, is he a good teacher? Is he a bad teacher? Should we be like him? Should we not? Is he selfish, self-involved, self-obsessed, or is he teaching valuable lessons? A lot of controversy, to the extent that now I really want to watch Dead Poets Society to find out, to see what it's all about and to make my decision on whether he's a good or bad teacher. Because I think it seems like a really cool debate. But most divisive teacher, without even seeing it, I can tell he is the one that stirs up the most controversy. I think he's amazing in Good Will Hunting, but Dead Poet Society I haven't seen, but clearly some people love him, some people hate him. Worth a watch. Then the last one I have, I guess I can split it into a male and female category, not that I need to. Most honest characters. These are from TV series. So characters that when I see them, I think, yeah, it's pretty true, of what teachers might be like. Even though they're both really different types of teachers. One is Greg Davis in The Inbetweeners and Man Down. So he's a drama teacher in Man Down, who's got depression and a lot going on in his life. And in The Inbetweeners, he's more like a year ahead. But both roles, he's a teacher. And of course, many of you will know that in real life, he was a teacher. And lots of his stand-up material is based on his teacher experiences. So Greg Davis, in general, I think is just a great, honest character who is really, if you're a teacher, one of the only things I would say as a teacher is like you enjoy it more when you watch Greg Davis from being a teacher, whereas a lot of the other things you might choose not to watch it because you don't want to overdo school, but with Greg Davis it's like satisfying wind down from school. Like you can relate to Greg Davis in a great way. On the female award for most honest character, I would go maybe controversially with Zooey Deschanel in New Girl. She's a teacher. She works her way up through the ranks over the series. She has her own life outside of school, but she cares loads about the job, and it's regularly a part of what she talks about, a part of her life choices, a part of the things she cares about. There's something about New Girl that it's not all about her being a teacher, but it just weaves its way in regularly to make it, to me, seem realistic enough and kind of relatable enough that I think, yeah, there's a realness there, and there's an honesty in that character and that. So that's cool. I'm a fan of that. That's most honest characters. And then I think that leaves us with the most controversial awards, the best teacher and the worst teacher. And we are on the hour of 1 hour and a half. So I really need to wrap up. Worst teacher was between Umbridge and Trunchbull. So Umbridge from the Harry Potter books and Trunchbull from Matilda, of course. Professor Umbridge is actually who I'm going to award worst teacher to. And the reason why Professor Umbridge I'm giving more power to, one is because her character is a little bit more insidious and a little bit more real than Trunchbull is like a cartoon, right? It's ridiculous, over the top, so crazy. But Umbridge is like, there's a weird familiarity. You're like, were you like one of my primary school teachers? Plus, the actress who plays her has now gone on to play the Queen. And I can't get on board with her playing the Queen. Like, I love The Crown and I love watching it and learning all about the stuff that happened then. But I look at her and I'm just like, I still don't like you because you were so good in playing Umbridge and you were so convincing in playing Umbridge. I can't detach from that. So, massive props to the actress who plays Professor Umbridge. Worst teacher award for sure. Well earned, terrifying role, Professor Umbridge. Best teacher. Now, you're all going to have your opinions on this, and I think a lot of you will say people I haven't seen. So I haven't seen Dead Poets, I haven't seen Coach Carter, I haven't seen Freedom Writers, and all of those were common people saying, like, these should be your best teachers. I'm going to go with Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. I think he's amazing. I think he's a proper role model teacher. He's emotionally honest. He's really, knows what's best for the kid and isn't interested in being liked by the kid, but wants the kid to do well and to develop. There's just an honesty in him. Sure, he choke holds him at one point. Not ideal. Do you know what I mean? It's not all sunshine and rainbows, but we make mistakes as teachers. I have never choke holded a child. However, should I see it as necessary? No, I'm kidding. That would never happen in my classroom in the universe ever. But, it's Hollywood, people. It's Hollywood. We allow these little flourishes. And in the long run, it worked. He got through to Will. He helped him develop his life. He made a change. So, but he was another teacher in crisis. What's with that, America? Why are you putting all your teachers in crisis? And and if teachers aren't in crisis, they're like bad teachers. Why is that? We're going to have to get into this in future weeks because there is so much more to get into. I think I'm going to hold it. But next week, I'm not on the air. Don't cry. Don't send me hate mail. Don't send me death threats. Next week, my hardcore fans, I'm not on next week. I am off to Ireland for a little summer break. over the next week, and then I'll be back the week after that, back on my Sunday brunch slot. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful time. I hope you've enjoyed talking through the teachers of Hollywood and TV and all of that stuff. And I've really enjoyed talking it through with you all. I'll chat with you all again in 2 weeks' time at the same time, same slot. You listen to Teachers Talk Radio. If you haven't voted yet, get onto the British Podcast Awards and vote for Teachers Talk Radio, because we would love to have your support. And thank you for all your interactions and lovely participation today on the show and previously on Twitter. It's been great chatting through movies, and I look forward to doing more soon. Take it easy, guys. Have a great summer. You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.